a week or two of straight progress, or you thought it was progress, consistency, hard work, effort, and you saw nothing. You saw zero changes on the scale. Maybe the scale even increased in weight a little bit and you felt defeated. Well, the scale may be lying to you. Maybe it's not the entire picture, and likely it's a very small, maybe a small percentage of the entire puzzle. But if you allow yourself to get absorbed by the definition, by what the scale tells you, and you just end up feeling, you will end up feeling defeated and just go down the wrong path. And today I'm going to tell you why the scale is lying to you and what other measures of progress you have to just start to understand and appreciate and start tracking so that you don't get off track when the scale doesn't comply. And newsflash, like the scale is not going to comply every single time. There'll be a lot of times where it doesn't move or increases a little bit. Before I get into this, if you're watching me on live, type number 1 down below, or if you're watching me on the replay, type number 2 down below so I know when you saw this video, and let me know where you're from down below in the comments. So let's say you put in a hard week's worth of work. You go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, do tons of cardio, you eat what you feel like should allow you to lose weight, and the scale doesn't move. Why does this happen? The first reason why it may happen is because your inconsistency in the time that you actually weigh yourself. Because if you weigh yourself in the evening, you will almost guaranteed to weigh more than you would weigh if you weigh yourself in the morning. On top of that, even if your calories are exactly the same, but one day you ate a larger volume of food and maybe you didn't go to the bathroom compared to a day when you ate smaller volume of food and then went to the bathroom, it may all play a part into this. It's not just the calories, it's also about the volume of food that's in your system, as well as the sodium that maybe you had the previous day, which will help your body retain water, not fat. And if your body retains water, it's not a bad thing. You're still burning fat, you're still losing fat, but you're up a bit in as far as water. Maybe you gain maybe a pound or two. For me personally, it's normal to gain 3, 4 pounds if I eat a bunch of salt and carbs because my body just retains water and so does yours. That does not mean your body is not making any kind of changes. There's other factors of progress that you have to start to gauge and measure in order to understand the entire picture. So let's get into that. So what kind of other measures of progress do you have to make? And I'm curious, what other measures of progress are you currently gauging based on your own progress? Because if it's just a scale and a number on that scale, it's never going to feel like it's satisfying or that you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. So there's other measures of progress that you should be measuring, like your photos. That's a huge one. A lot of times your photos will look drastically different when the scale doesn't move even a single bit. So are you actually taking photos of yourself? Maybe it's every 2 weeks, maybe it's every month. But if you have a starting point of how you look like before you started a weight loss journey, or maybe your fitness transformation, you should have photos. It may be difficult to start taking those photos in the beginning, but they're so valuable to you because you want to look back and see how you're changing, as well as maybe body, not maybe, but definitely body measurements. How many of you can possibly or realistically say that you take body measurements? Because your body will change more often than not, even though the scale may not budge, because you may put on some muscle and reduce some body fat percentage, which is what everybody wants. You want to reduce your body fat and increase your muscle. But that may mean that your scale is not going to budge much, if at all, but your body composition will be drastically different. I mean, most people want to lose weight, but they also want to put on muscle, but they want the scale to always go down, which doesn't make sense on a consistent basis. You may put on, if you're first starting out, a few pounds of muscle. Maybe your waist will shrink, maybe your chest will shrink a bit, your shoulders will be a bit more wider, maybe your arms will be a bit more toned up, which means you're gaining muscle and losing fat, but maybe your body measurements change drastically and the scale doesn't. That is an amazing factor of progress. But on top of that, what's even more important is just your food relationship. Maybe before you started a weight loss journey, you were used to binge eating or severely overeating, but followed by maybe guilt trips because you ate something you considered to be bad. But now it doesn't happen anymore. Why does nobody consider your food relationship something that is part of your progress? That's an everlasting change that should be at the forefront of everybody's transformation or journey. If you find yourself eating better, maybe not feeling guilty after eating certain foods, maybe you go out more without starving yourself the next day, without skipping meals the next day. That's a crazy, amazing factor of progress. It's not just a scale, because that's going to last with you for years. It's not just the number at the scale, that whether it goes up or down. That's going to always go up and down or stay stagnant for a little bit every single time. but there's so many other ways. What about the compliments that people are giving you? Maybe somebody you haven't seen in a month or two look at you now and they say that, oh wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing? What have you changed? That is amazing. And if you just keep getting absorbed by the number on the scale, it's never going to tell you the entire picture. It's never going to tell you the whole entire truth. And you have to have other ways of measuring progress, like we talked about. Measurements, I would say, should be one of the very most important ones. Take all your measurements and see how it changes week by week. There will be times when your measurements are absolutely fantastic. Maybe you lost 10 inches, over a course of a week combined, which is what a lot of my clients actually lose. But the scale may not move, or maybe it loses or moves less than you want it to move. But that's amazing progress. Take the photos that of yourself, compare yourself. Don't show them to anybody else unless you want to. Keep them to yourself and see how you're changing over a long period of time. And on top of that, your clothing. Maybe you're putting on a pair of jeans or a t-shirt you haven't worn since high school or college, but now you can put it on perfectly fine. And maybe it fits a bit better, maybe a bit more loose than it did before, or less tight than it did before. That's amazing. Use all of these measures or ways of measuring progress so you can start to separate yourself from feeling that the scale is the most important and the only definitive answer of how progress should be measured. And the more you start to separate yourself away from that scale, the more you will start to appreciate every area of progress. And it all comes together like a puzzle. But that scale is a single piece of the puzzle. But sometimes, for some reason, people like to just focus on that one single piece, like that single piece makes up the entire Lego puzzle. It doesn't work that way. And it's important to start to appreciate every other and understand every way of measuring progress. And if this video helped you out in any way, if this video made sense to you in any way, drop a fire emoji down below, share this video, like the video, it helps me out tremendously.